Hey everybody, and welcome to Red Key Solutions webinar series, SharePoint Crash Course webinar. We have a bunch of people joining, a big attendance here today. People are rolling in, a number of existing clients and a number of um, other companies that we know, interact with. So thank you so much for joining us. With me, my name is Alex. I'm the co-founder of Red Key Solutions, and I have our other co-founder, Paul Grenzi, here
Hello.
with us. And we're going to walk you through some information about SharePoint, where it came from, what it is, and then some basic tips and tricks on how to use it better and improve your business and life. So let's move on. So brief history of file sharing. In the modern Windows, most people have been using traditional share drives for the last 20 years, right? Some people have migrated to modern cloud share solutions, but most people traditionally were using share drives with a VPN. And VPN was never a fun time, and if you've ever used it, you know some of the issues. And on the support side, there's plenty of issues there as well. And then over the last, it's about 10 years or something like that, different shared drive solutions or cloud sharing solutions came on the market. Dropbox was probably one of the earlier ones that really was a major commercial success. Then Ignite's another option, OneDrive. All of them are good options. And OneDrive came out as Microsoft solution. And Microsoft solution was basically to compete against Dropbox, and you have almost your personal OneDrive, right? And that worked really well, but it wasn't a share drive replacement. So then there was SharePoint. So the original SharePoint was a separate product, and it was essentially designed as an intranet website, and you could put documents in there, but it was very, very clunky, and very few people adopted it successfully that we know of. And we definitely play with it when it first came out, and every version since, and it was always pretty difficult to use. And then Microsoft had a vision. They said, let's redefine what SharePoint is. And they took their OneDrive product, which was a Dropbox competitor, and morphed it into SharePoint and made OneDrive take over SharePoint's document section. And then they actually had a product that it still does your intranet website, which still doesn't work that well, and it's not that usable. But it is now finally your My Documents replacement and your traditional share drive replacement. And it also acts as a central bridge between Microsoft Office 365 App Universe. And that App Universe is deep. We're going to have upcoming webinars on a lot of the different functions in there, and a lot of different apps you can use to better your business. But right now, SharePoint is the topic. So what is the benefits of new SharePoint? So it's a traditional My Documents and Share Drive replacement. It gives you the ability to do same-time document editing and collaboration like Google Sheets. You can send a link to a document just like Google Sheets. People can open it, collaborate at the same time. You can share this link to outside users of your organization with specific rules like setting a password, setting an expiration date for the link. So it's a way to send sensitive files instead of using email and attaching them. And if that email ever gets compromised, if they click the link, whatever the link went to could possibly be dead because you set the sharing permissions to expire after 30 days, right? It gives you the ability to access the files anywhere on any device, which is like a VPN replacement. And it's truly a powerful way. You can access it on a cell phone, you can access it on an iPad, at home, wherever. It gives you the ability to enable autosave and versioning in Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Microsoft projects. It's integrated into Microsoft Teams. So if you saw our previous webinar on Microsoft Teams and you see how powerful Teams is for collaboration and group work, it gives you the ability to plug it right into Teams. And then you can control the permissions. So traditionally, if you needed people to have access to a different share drive, you would have to submit a ticket to IT. And then our engineers have to go in and add you to the group policy and the Active Directory and set it up correctly. But now, if we set up Teams and SharePoint for you correctly from the start, you can now add people and remove people into your teams at will. So it's really gives you a lot more flexibility to work. It's also a massive reduction on your file server and hard drive backup and disaster recovery costs. So people with traditional file servers, as you know, we have solid backup disaster recovery solutions, and those disaster recovery solutions are priced based on how much storage is held in the cloud. We use Datto as our main partner for that. They're a fantastic disaster recovery solution, and SharePoint doesn't necessarily replace Datto for backing up the servers. If you move into Azure, which will be another webinar we're going to do, and you want to get rid of your server, that's what we've done. We're doing that for every client we interact with. But SharePoint it takes a lot of weight off that file server. It's also free with your Office 365 subscription. So if you already have email, and mostly everyone should be on Office 365 unless you're in Google. If you're in Google, Google has Google Drive, and it's a competing product. It has some limitations. It doesn't work as good as SharePoint, in my opinion. But the business world is a Microsoft world, and for a variety of reasons. You want to speak with me about that in person, I can tell you all the reasons why Microsoft platform is far better for business in today's world. So it takes a lot of pressure off your file server. So you can buy cheaper file servers or not even buy file servers. Or when you move to Azure, your file servers, if your current file servers, let's say, are 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte of storage, you don't need a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte storage server in the cloud anymore, or even to back it up if you move all your files into SharePoint. It's also saved in Office 365 data center. So it's not saved locally. It's not in your office, which is a huge benefit. By not having it in your office, you can't lose it. A fire or flood can't affect you. You could also do selective syncing and streaming on demand. So what that means is if you ever use Dropbox and you wanted to share it across your company and people accessing it with laptops, but you have 1 terabyte of files, it's going to blow up the hard drive of all of those laptops, because the way that Dropbox works is it has to sync a copy onto every computer. With SharePoint and OneDrive, you can just do streaming files. So you could just access files on demand, click them, the same way your Outlook works. When you open up an email, you click the files, it streams the data, right? And then you can also do selective syncing. So let's say you have a large file, it's some kind of large PDF, and you access it all the time, or a large spreadsheet. You can say, I want this spreadsheet to be always live local, right? So that's really cool. And then it includes backups as part of SharePoint. So there's versioning, a recycling bin, so there's backups. But on top of that, with Redkey's advanced security package, for any clients that have signed up with us in recent years, we include backups for your entire Microsoft Office 365 suite, and that includes SharePoint. So that replaces Datto. It's included in your package. And the intranet is still not widely adopted, but it has some potential, and is so much more possible features that you could be using. And it's going to be another webinar that we'll talk about that. So that's kind of the recap of what SharePoint is and how it works. And then let me just show you how it physically functions. So let's say you have a spreadsheet and you want to make a spreadsheet to do some kind of collaboration. Let's make a new spreadsheet, and we'll call it the new office brainstorming spreadsheet, right? And you want to make this a little bigger. You make items. And you know what? Let me bring in Paul, because we're brainstorming our new office in New York City. New York City office. And let me add Paul. Let me actually save this first. So I'm going to save this file. I'm going to do more save options. And I could save it right into SharePoint here. I could save it on my PC like traditionally. So let me save it into SharePoint. I'm going to save it into our general group, into documents. and I'll put it right in here. I'm going to say new office brainstorming, right? So next, if I want to invite Paul into this, I could say, hey, Paul, here is this file, right? I could send it to him right there. I could also copy the link. So while this gets into Paul's email, I'll show you, you could do copy, right? You could just take this link and share it with anyone in your organization. This is controlled by the policies. There's a massive SharePoint admin section that Redkey sets up, manages. So in our company, you can't share links from outside unless you do a special invite. So now Paul joined. As you can see, he's right up here. So now Paul can type. And I could say, okay, so we need movers, we need IT, right? We could do price. And I could say, Paul, what do you think IT for a new office would be? You could say movers. And say movers are $5,000. Paul says IT, full, all computers, firewalls, switches, Wi-Fi, SharePoint, Office 365, just ballpark, right? Let's say we can finance that over 48 months, nice and clean. So it's auto saving up here. So that's the benefit of SharePoint, is it makes all your files, you never have to worry about saving, right? And then you can also save. So it's saving right now, right? So I'm going to close it here. And then let me go try to find it. So I'm going to click my computer. And the way it shows up here is you could see there's your OneDrive. So this is your personal My Documents. And then you have your SharePoint. So this little building icon is your SharePoint. You could have multiple companies. You could see we have our main IT company here and we have our software company here. So both are running on SharePoint. So if you have multiple companies and multiple entities, they can all have their own SharePoint repository. And these files are not on my local computer. Some of them I sync selectively, but most of them are not on the local computer. So let's go into here. I think I actually saved it in a different location. So let me pull this up. I think I saved it not in the documents group, but I saved it in a different location. Let's see.
Technical services, shared documents, general.
That's why I saved it?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. General shared.
Let's see. Let's make a blank work group and I'll do another save as. So let's go to my PC and we will save it right into general documents right here. Just for the sake of integrating into Teams, new office brainstorming, right? Oops. Oh, Paul, you're editing the file, I think, no?
I am in it. Let me get out.
No, this is the second file. Let's save that in here. Okay. And then I will share it again with Paul. So it's a new office brainstorming.
Alex, while you're going, somebody was asking, what is the basic difference between OneDrive and SharePoint?
So the basic difference between OneDrive and SharePoint is there's not much. It's using the OneDrive engine, and you can see here, both of our sites are synced. So the OneDrive for Redkey is synced in here, and you can go in here under settings, right? And you can see that this account is syncing my documents, but it's also syncing all of our team drives. So it's like this weird intermingled thing between OneDrive and SharePoint. But ultimately, Alex, it's all running through OneDrive.
You know what I would also say? Anyone that's used to having a My Documents folder or a personal user drive in a file system structure like a regular file server, that's what the OneDrive feature or role really is in this equation, is it's a personal drive that's also backed up, but not everybody has access to it in the way that the other SharePoint documents are accessible.
Correct. So this new office brainstorming, let's say location, the spiral. It's an amazing new building going up in the city. Let's say movers, right? 5,000. IT, you're starting a new company, 18,000. You save this, right? And you're going to save it into our general folder. And here it is, new office brainstorming. And now if I want to open this file online, I can do this. So I'm going to log in. It's going to authenticate. Now this is our extra layer of security. Every single time we need to access any of our files at Redkey or our desktops, it has to scan our face using Face ID. So we have layers and layers and layers of infinite security here. So now I'm in, okay? And you can see this file here. It was shared with Paul. So you can see that who was accessing it. You can go in here. You can see. Did I share with you, Paul?
You did.
You did?
Yeah.
Yep. And he can go in here and we can type at the same time, which is pretty cool. You can open up into desktop app in here as well. You can also see the versions. And this is Excel Online. This lives in a browser, right? And you can drag it right up here into your bookmark toolbar. So this bookmark toolbar is essential to running it really efficiently. This will be one of our tips coming up in a webinar on how to really supercharge your and make your workforce much faster. And bookmark toolbar puts all the things you use one click away. So
Alex, we have a question.
sure.
Do you personally prefer working out of the SharePoint drives or directly from the Teams app file location?
I still like the traditional drives. Like I live in here. If I want to go to any of our sales documents and collateral, it's in here.
And
If I
you've
want to
also
look at
taken the time to
services,
synchronize those drives,
correct.
right?
And I'll
If
show
you
you how to do
don't
that
do
in a
that,
second.
but if you don't do that, and at the same time, you can show everybody where within Teams they can hit this file structure because it's the
Yes,
same structure.
correct. Yep. So this is our teams, and you can see here under the general, all the files are here. So SharePoint is now integrated with Microsoft Teams, and you can see the new Office brainstorming is here, and you can even open it from within Teams. I just like to keep Teams specifically for Teams. It's sometimes useful as a second way to access a file. That's been very, very useful, and especially on your phone. On your phone, in your Teams app, you could pull up all your files. You can also pull them up in the OneDrive app and the SharePoint app. I think honestly, the OneDrive app works the best on your phone, but it's accessible anywhere. So however you want to work, it's accessible.
Alex, I got another question that's relevant.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you integrate an on-prem server with SharePoint?
You essentially you wouldn't need to. I don't believe there's an exact way to do that. For that, we use a system called Ignite, which is basically was SharePoint before SharePoint. We have a lot of clients using Ignite. It works fantastically well for construction companies, companies with large CAD drawings. It is a more powerful SharePoint, not to deviate from SharePoint, but Ignite in a lot of ways is more powerful and has more compliance and regulation behind their sharing, and in some ways is a little more user friendly. So that we use Ignite for, where we install a Linux-based Ignite controller on a file server, and it basically cloudifies your existing file server. I think I've heard rumors that you can do the same thing with SharePoint. We haven't tried it, and we've never met somebody that has. But I'm pretty sure that will be possible very shortly as well. It looks like Jason joined us as well. See, now Jason just hopped in because he has access to that Teams, and Jason is just chatting. Hey, Jason, how are you? So it's a really cool way to be able to collaborate right here. You can also see the version history. So that's really cool. You can see who edited it, when, and you can restore that version right here. You could save it as a copy. So this takes Microsoft Office to a whole new level. The new version of Microsoft Office is integrated and built for SharePoint. Okay, so that is a really powerful next generation way to manage files. Next, you can also right click. So you go to the file and you can go here to General, My Documents, and this file that we made. You can share it out from here as well. So I like to do this. You can view online, see the version history. You can choose it to sync it. But I like to do this. You share online. So if we're sending any documents to accountants or anybody, you can say specific people and you can send it to a specific person email. They'll get an invitation to access that file, and only that email is able to access that file. It's an interesting way to share files. So you can do that. You can also pin files to teams. So let's say this is a file that is working on a particular project. We created a channel for a project and we wanted to pin it at the top. So you can press pin, and now this new Office brainstorming is up here. So at any time you can have a conversation. So a lot of our projects have spreadsheets pinned at the top, right? So you can very quickly see it's right here, and you see Paul is still editing right now. The other thing to note is you manage it all from this little app widget down here. You can also access all the files from SharePoint, the classical SharePoint. This is what SharePoint used to look like, right? And you can see all of our team channels. So if you've been following what we've been doing, we've converted all of our traditional share drives into teams, and that's where we can have communication. So you can go in here, and this is their intranet, which again, no one really uses extremely well, but some people have. I've heard stories and rumors, and I've seen it. But I think there are other apps that work a little bit better to create a cohesive intranet.
I think there's been some consultants out there that do a very brisk business customizing SharePoint, but outside of that, not so much.
Correct. And we've had conversations, and we had some demand for people saying they want us to customize this. We don't have that in-house today. We have some partners we can refer you to if you need to.
Alex, we have a question. Do you mind?
Yes, go ahead.
Someone would like to know, can you use SharePoint with Excel files that are linked to databases like Olap?
I believe you can. We have some linking of files that are actually live in SharePoint because it lives on a computer. So technically you can install SharePoint on a file server, right? And you can point to that local file server, right? It's similar to the question from before, but slightly different. The question from before was, can you make a traditional file server, I think, a SharePoint server, right?
Can it work with it on-prem?
Can it work with on-prem, and not in a traditional share file, share drive scenario, right? Where you actually have your share drives down here, right? Traditionally, you would have share drives down here. That's what Ignite is really amazing by cloudifying your file server. But if you install SharePoint on a local file server, and that by local I mean just a file server, it could be in the cloud. You can technically point to that. So we do have apps that are pointing to SharePoint folders and adding and modifying things. We would have to try it, but it's something that we can definitely do. So the other important thing to note is you have SharePoint Online, so you can access this from anywhere. So if you go into your Office 365, you can click this little, they used to call it a hamburger, but now it's what is that, just a menu? I think it's a 9-dash menu. You have to hunt in all the modern apps nowadays. So you can go in here and you can just access SharePoint. So here are all of your teams. You can also access your OneDrive. So this is your personal My Documents. And here you can also see any files that you've shared, any files that are shared with you, by you. This is really cool. You can see all your My Files. You can see your recent files. Really a awesome ability to access files.
You want to show a recovery?
Yes, so you can go to here, you can open up general. There's also a recycling bin, which is pretty cool. Now the recycling bin works well. It's not as robust. We also have an entire separate um, recycling bin backup cloud that we run called Drop Suite on top of Office 365. So if you ever lose files or if a hacker ever goes in and blows away your SharePoint, which we've seen happen, we have a way to recover it from an untouchable location, so that could secure your files. And again, that's included in our general package. And there's really so many other features to talk about the intranet piece, all the other Microsoft apps that's going to be coming for future webinars. But the moral of the story is that SharePoint is just a modern share drive, allowing you to share access, collaborate on a new level, and access files from anywhere. If you've not installed this for your company, ask your IT partner for a migration plan. And if you're not happy with your IT partner, give Redkey a call. We're a fresh thinking IT firm, and you should definitely have a conversation with us. And any other questions and answers, Paul?
No, not yet, but we do have a great name for that little set of dots up in the corner, a waffle iron.
A waffle iron. I like that. You click the waffle iron, and you get access to your Microsoft universe through the
And we do
waffle.
have a question that just popped up.
Yes.
Is SharePoint the app to use if I wanted to share a large folder with someone outside of our company?
Yes, actually. So that's one thing that I should have covered. You can create a folder and you can share the entire folder. So you can say, I want to share this folder, and then make the share permanent and send a link. So when we onboard new clients, we send them a link to an onboarding folder, and that's how people upload files to us. So
Right.
this is an FTP replacement. This is a way to basically give people a folder to just send files into. So
Especially if it's
Dropbox
too
does it
big
in
to
a nice
email.
too,
Right,
especially
Alex?
if
If
it's
it's
too
too
big to
big to
email.
email.
Right, and then the benefit is they're not emailing you the file for then you have to drag it into a folder. They're putting it in the folder you want them to from the beginning. So it stays nice and organized, and everyone can just link that folder. So any of your projects can have just an active SharePoint folder, and you can have multiple people in and out of that folder collaborating. All right, so that seems to be all the questions. I appreciate the time, everybody. Please follow us. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe, and we'll have a lot more content coming about technology and how to improve your work life, real tips and tricks on how to use technology better. And I promise you will learn through the process. And thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.